Let's call our meeting to order. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's take a roll call, please.
President Dobler,
Present?
Vice President Jones,
Present.
Commissioner Scholar,
Present.
Commissioner Dara, Commissioner Williams.
Here.
Solicitor Lovato.
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. First item on our agenda, why is it underlined?
I underline motions on agendas and discussion is not.
I
So
see. Okay, so first item on our agenda is a motion to approve our April 18th, 2016 legislative meeting minutes.
I move to approve the legislative meeting minutes of April 18th, 2016.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, discussion of the villas at Glen Minogue subdivision and land development application.
developer Michael Minock has submitted an application for subdivision and land development. Those are two things. Subdivision is creating the lot lines, and then the development is what you're building on those lots. And he's gone through multiple rounds with the planning commission, and they have recommended approval of his plan. There were some stormwater issues that took a couple of months to work out between our engineer and his engineer, but that's all set. And so you'll see in your packet, there's a letter of recommendation from the planning commission with a few conditions. And then they had also sought a few waivers from our ordinance, and two of them were recommended to be granted and one was recommended to be denied. So next week, you'll be voting on the subdivision and land development plan, and then you'll have the conditional use hearing, which is the next item on our agenda here.
So how many units is he?
I believe it's 9. I have to look on the plan. I have the big plan in
And
here
this is at the end of,
I think it's 11, but two of them are in the,
in Weber's Corner.
Right.
It will be down and across a little bit from the entrance to McCoy.
and it's called,
Glen Minogue. Minogue is apparently Minock in
French.
no,
Scottish.
Scott?
Irish.
Irish.
I guess.
Scottish to me.
People can have a hard time.
And so the waiver is that they're not going to do any we're back to no sidewalks at all now, right?
That was their request, but the planning commission is not recommending that the board grant that.
I got you. Okay.
The board, they recommend that you require the sidewalks as the ordinance says.
And that's sidewalks on both sides?
One side,
One side.
because it only requires on one side in the residential zoning district.
And these are single family?
Single family.
Is he planning on building spec houses there, or is he just going to build to order?
I thought he said build to order, but I can't speak 100% confidently on that.
Do we have a plot plan?
We do, there's this large one right here that was available to look at. I have a few smaller versions too, if anybody wants to take them home and look at them. I
Yeah.
have some smaller versions that you can take home. Okay. Okay.
Is there a time limit for building out the lots?
That might be addressed in the developer's agreement, which is something that's between the developer and the solicitor. I don't recall that being discussed yet, but that might be something that's addressed in the developer's agreement.
It wasn't the last meeting, but it wasn't discussed prior to that.
It wasn't, no, we haven't talked about it.
So the answer is no.
I raised the question because of the yet to be developed lots that are left
On Rock Ledge.
and on Rockledge that are actually pretty unsightly given the rest of the neighborhood. Just seems to have a propensity for ignoring that.
That is probably something that could go, be a requirement of the developer's agreement, I would think. So hopefully Chris and Harlan can put that in.
They said that it could be a part of the development agreement.
The developer's agreement between the township and
Mm-hmm.
Minock. which lays out some of the
Just
terms
defines
of what.
who does what.
Yeah, I would let, I mean, that's a thorny issue over there. It's been an issue since
What is that?
forever. Those 3 empty lots on Rockledge Drive.
But there's, I mean, they're partially dug out
Yeah.
and they've just been left to go wild. There's bricks that were left there. It's,
And my understanding was back in the day, there was a disagreement over the ownership of Rockledge Drive, but that's been resolved at this
That's been
point.
resolved.
yeah, all those issues have been resolved.
Yeah.
Until they get resolved, I think he was told he'd have a hard time getting a building permit, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case anymore.
Done where.
Well, one issue that I'd expressed privately, and I don't know what authority or influence we have over this, but to me, I think that naming a new street in Aleppo, Glen Minogue Court, is a mistake, given the similarity to Glen Mitchell Road. And where we have so many roads over in the ridge that all sound alike, and we have McCoy and South McCoy, it seems foolish to me. My understanding is that we get little to say about that because typically the developer names the roads, but my understanding is also that we are ultimately going to be asked to take this road, right?
Correct.
And I don't like the idea, it's going to be for a different board to consider because that's going to be sometime down the road, right? It's not,
When they adopt.
Yeah.
The township adopts the road, it'll be a few years down the road after it's
Yeah.
been fully developed.
but obviously by that time it's going to be too late. By the time there's already houses on it and people have their addresses registered with the post office, you're going to be right back into the soup that you're in with. And I don't really, it's not that I'm upset that his name, I don't really care. I just think that Glen Mitchell and Glen Minogue are too similar.
I mean, it could just be Minogue Court.
I would be fine with that.
All in favor?
But I don't think we get to,
That's something that you're
You're
free to bring up with him,
Yeah,
and he
right.
might just not have thought of it that way, and might say, oh, sure.
Right.
No one's ever raised it with him, so that could be something where we just mention it.
I actually had that similar experience. We went to Sea Island, Georgia for a couple of weeks this past March. Hadn't been to the particular place where we were renting before and had a name and we had it in the GPS and we got into this development and went to the house number that was on the street that looked like the right name. And the guy said, oh, this happens all the time. But there's another street at the other side of the development is where you want to go.
What happens?
Yep.
Not uncommon.
and I think especially, as you say, with GPS, use GLENM. It's,
Right, and
it's-
it pulls up.
I just think it's trouble.
I ran into the same thing out there in Phoenix, Scottsdale. One dark night in the middle of winter. And same street name, except there was no middle to it. There was a mountain range. So if you happened to go up the wrong road and turn right into it, you're on the wrong road. So you had to go 14 miles around to the other end and drive to and there was the restaurant we were looking for. We were late for our, but it was, it seemed, at that time, it seemed ridiculous.
So when is the appropriate time to raise that issue, that concern with him? Is that something that needs to be done privately, or that's something he'll be at the hearing next
He'll be
week?
here next week for the
He
hearing.
won't be sending an attorney or something in his place?
No, he'll come.
Okay.
He represents himself at the planning commission he did at
Okay.
the time. So I think you could bring it up then. If you-
Okay.
Could we send him advance notice of our
I think that would be smart.
concern?
I could certainly email him. I talk to him frequently. I know him. So I could certainly send him an email and say, this came up tonight. And,
Right.
Be prepared to talk about it.
And it's a concern that we think might be to his benefit.
How close are the houses in this development going to be to the Manor Swimming and Tennis Complex?
Close.
Just go down to Sewickley to Osborne.
I'm sorry?
Go down into Sewickley and look at those units on the boulevard. And it's incredible. Every one is sold
I know.
Yep.
Incredible.
They're snug.
and they're $550,000.
Well, Commissioner Darrow, what's your concern there? Why does that
Well,
come up to you?
I just think in terms of having, I mean, I think it should be a nice development, but it shouldn't be something that becomes an area of friction between the people who buy houses there and the people who live in the manor and use the common facilities that they're there. So, you know, whether there should be some sort of noise screen or something that's part of the development plan, I don't know.
It's not part of the manor. So it's different.
No, but Dan's saying, 100 kids in the swimming pool.
Or if before you get old and go deaf like me, the ping pong of the tennis balls, which,
Oh, no. Now pickleballs.
what are they?
Pickleballs, which are loud.
Well, to my way of thinking, it's something the developer should have thought about, because I think it adds to the attractiveness of the development.
Perhaps that should be included in the email to him. To the Mike.
Well, that's his problem. I don't know if it-
Well, but he might want to think about it. I mean, these are things he may not have thought about.
I think he's gonna change his plans.
So dear
because-
Mike, have you considered any potential conflict
Well,
regarding activities or whatever?
Unless he wants to put up some sound barriers.
That's what I meant,
Yeah,
yeah,
he could do
yeah.
that. He could put up plantings and.
Well, whatever you do, let's give him a high sign before he walks in here.
Yep.
My old
Yeah,
age is
yeah, you
people-
don't
people
wanna
can-
dump
yeah,
a
people
bunch of
handle
stuff,
disappointments, but they hate surprises.
But I mean, that's a good point, because I'm serious. They're going to line one of those tennis courts for pickleball. It's a hard wiffle ball. It is loud.
I'll
Well,
mention that in the
I mean,
email.
I agree that I think that the goal here should be to encourage development, as we've said, and I don't want him to come in and think that we're
Nitpicking.
nitpicking or being unfriendly to what sounds like a great project. I just want to think it through and. All right, is there any other discussion to have on that?
No.
Has that covered both items 5 and 6? Okay.
Just to give you, the 6 is a little different. You have to have a conditional use hearing because 2 of the lots are in the Weber's Corner Village zoning district. And you have to, he has to seek permission to build the 2 single-family homes that are in that district. So that's what the conditional use hearing will focus on, is granting or denying permission to put those 2 homes that are on the same road. It's just the zoning district splits his plan. So he just has to get the permission to put the 2 single-family homes there.
And
So
that
that's
zoning
what-
district is commercial?
It is, it's
It's
sort of,
both,
it's like a village, it allows both. Was
Okay.
designed to be a small little village square type area, but it's now full houses.
So residential is like a conditional use, has to be approved.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, anything else to discuss on that? Somebody, anybody, nobody? Number 7, discussion of potential chicken ordinance.
I got a copy, oh, sorry, Dan.
Oh, this one I could.
I've been holding my breath on this one since I got the agenda on Friday.
Somebody's complaining about chicken.
Well, we got a sample ordinance in the mail from Glen Osborne, and they just adopted a chicken ordinance. And we have chickens throughout the township, and now I've gotten a lot of chicken questions and some chicken complaints. So I just put it on there to throw it out there to see if the board is interested in pursuing it. It's a very hot topic, a hot ordinance topic these days.
You say it
Chickens are
is?
popular.
It is?
It
Yes.
is.
Are you
Chickens
getting chicken
very
complaints or rooster
popular.
complaints?
Rooster.
And all of these sample ordinances say no
Who
rooster.
has a rooster?
We have some residents that have a rooster.
Now,
How does
Osborne
it
has
work if one
always
has
had a chicken
chickens but no
ordinance. Don't
rooster?
let them tell you. the
Not
chicken
for long.
No, they're just
Because I have friends that
It's
had
like
chickens and
Welsh
they've
down
been
on
in front of them
Scaife and
for the
Glen
last
Mitchell.
5 years.
They're just doing them for the eggs,
They're doing it what?
just for the eggs. No breeding. And you're also in all of these ordinances, you can't slaughter. But there were 2 major brouhahas in Swickley Heights and one in Swickley over chickens. I think it would be intelligent to have something in place. And I don't think it would take much work, because I think at least one of these is very appropriate.
I
Yeah,
don't
except
know.
if you have places that have roosters already, you run into a prior non-conforming use.
Well, you don't need roosters to have chickens,
Well, no, but if you already have,
but
if
if
you've
there
already
are
been harboring
roosters here,
roosters,
that's a problem. You
If
can
after the
outlaw
roosters-
the roosters.
If after the existing roosters die, can you prevent new
Yeah.
roosters from appearing?
You can just say you can't have roosters.
I think Dan's saying that.
well, you can't, after the fact, zone something out
Not
of,
once they have.
right. They get a prior non-conforming use, but they can't change what their current use is.
Yeah.
And if they stop it for any meaningful period of time, they lose their prior non-conforming use.
But you don't think
I
that,
was seriously thinking of getting chickens, that's why I wondered.
As long as you don't get a rooster, you'll be okay.
Yeah, all of these ordinances have restrictions on the housing, the disposal of the waste, the pens, roosters, number. But, I mean, I'm not, this is kind of silly, but if the existing roosters die,
You can't replace them.
Well, you
well, that's
can.
not what he's saying.
Right.
No, I mean, what I say is you grandfather the current roosters, but they're not permitted
I
to
don't think, it's the use that is grandfathered, not the
prevailing use.
Not
That
the
never ends.
individual.
and there can be serious events when a German Shepherd from Fern Hollow went over and killed one of the chickens across the street. The father went and caused a leash law to occur at Fern Hollow, which has now lessened the value of Fern Hollow in my mind, even though I don't have a dog. But
Well, there are, I mean, chickens wander, they get into people's yards. That's
Yeah.
an issue.
And the sample ordinances address that type of
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Maybe we should publish a notice to the people in the township that we're considering a chicken ordinance and we're inviting,
Maybe have
Comment.
them come to a town hall, come to.
yeah, because
a
I just
meeting.
quickly read through these and any one of them,
yeah, you could pick any one.
I think. They're pretty
I mean,
similar.
I would be a little hacked off if I had chickens and roosters and all of a sudden this was coming up, and especially if I didn't have some sort of notice, all of a sudden this ordinance just popped up. Whether it was prohibiting my actual use or not, I would find it.
This ordinance doesn't prohibit, it restricts how you can do it.
Regulations.
Yeah, it's primarily numbers, housing, waste disposal.
All right, well, let me ask that. Do we think that these ordinances would alter the use that anybody now has? Do we know?
Other than a ban on roosters, no. It might mean somebody has to be a little bit more fastidious about addressing their waste issues, but
What have been the complaints?
The rooster. The rooster that's.
A
over here.
rooster,
I don't know how many are over there, but there's one that just squawks all day long.
but it has
We
been
hear here too.
one,
One rooster complaint. We've not had chicken complaints. We've had a lot of questions about can we have chickens? And our ordinance just talks about agriculture uses. So it doesn't address, it talks about how much pasture land you need, and it doesn't specifically address the fact that we could have chickens on smaller plots.
no, I think an ordinance is appropriate and anything that's grandfathered is grandfathered.
Would you like the solicitor to work from one of those?
maybe
You
you
have
should
a
work up
Well,
a
I'm
draft
not
ordinance.
sure that
Okay.
we should have an ordinance. I mean, if you're saying that the majority of them are questions that people have, but you're saying the ordinance isn't prohibiting.
No,
No, it would just be
They're
regulating
pretty-
how they're housed.
they're pretty
It's
reasonable,
prohibiting
Joanne.
in Osborne. I think that they're prohibiting.
No, here's the
No.
Osborne ordinance right here.
Right,
What's the odds?
basically, the idea is that you need a certain amount of space for a certain number of chickens. And so there's regulations that depending on how big your chicken coop is, it limits how many chickens you can have. You
You
wanna-
have Osborne's ordinance there?
Yeah. So if you have a 3,000 square foot parcel or smaller, you get 4 chickens.
Okay, because boy, my friend, she's got a nice lot. I don't know. She's always in front of the Osborne.
So
But she has 4 new chickens, so I guess she's okay.
if you had 5,000 square feet, you could have 5, up to 10.
Okay, well, that's fine.
No, these are not
They're
unreasonable.
fine. Yeah, they're,
The 5:30 in the morning roosters can be disturbing in a dense neighborhood.
well, they do make noise all day, though. That
Yeah.
is true. Go to Key West. You hear them all.
Okay, well, I
And
believe,
chickens.
given the nature of the conflicts very close to our home, we should have an ordinance.
Well.
I know this may sound unusual, but I would also suggest if we're going to do this, when you arrive at it, that it should be specifically written for chickens and roosters. I'm bringing that up is because my father-in-law had a plot of land and the people next door had chickens and roosters, and then they bought a peacock. If you want to hear noise, man, I mean to tell you, got up on the roof.
Okay.
So I wouldn't
Well, do you want to
suggest that.
ask Carlin to draft something? What do you want to do, George?
I would
You know
suggest
me,
taking one of these ordinances
Yeah.
as the model and just adapt it to our particular situation.
I mean, he already drafted the Glen Osborne one pretty much by
Oh,
using
so
some of
let
these other
him-
ones
yeah.
as samples. I mean, he,
You can
He's
just
very
use
close to
that
it, so.
one.
Who's he?
Harlan.
I'd like to table this until I have a chance to read them a little more.
Well, it's going to be tabled by lack of a motion, so.
Yeah. Because, you know,
I'll just make a note to bring it up next month. Is that what you would like?
it's all right by me.
All right. Discussion of scheduling future workshop meetings at Masonic Village.
We talked about it last month. I contacted Masonic and Monday nights are out because of bingo. And the Tuesday night that would follow our regular workshop date is also booked. So their closest available date to our normally scheduled September workshop is Wednesday instead of Monday. So I just said I would talk about it and get back to her.
Didn't they move bingo the last
They
time?
did.
And they won't this time.
I didn't ask Eric directly. I just went, through the normal channels to see if the room was available.
They have 2 new people that are involved in that. The others are, one is no longer with us. and I haven't seen the other one for a while, so he may be up above. But anyway, they have 2 new people and they've automated it and so.
I don't have any
No
great,
harm in asking.
I don't have any great concern in having it on a Tuesday night. I kind of,
Wednesday.
Wednesday
Wednesday,
night.
or
they don't
Wednesday.
have Tuesday and they don't have Monday.
I don't care what day it is, but it's a little bit disconcerting that bingo can't be moved.
I mean, I just checked the schedule. So if you,
Did you ask them or did they?
I
just-
asked Carrie if it was open. I said when we gave her the preamble. We've had one here before. We're looking to have this. This is our day of our workshop. And she said Monday isn't good because.
And what's the first available date?
Wednesday, September 14th.
So we have lots of time. I would like to authorize Commissioner Williams to discuss
Yeah.
this.
Why don't you tell me what you want? I'll go talk to the people who are in charge of the bingo because Carrie is not.
The normal workshop date would be September 12th. Monday, September 12th is our normal date.
All right, anything else on that? Discussion of property complaints along Glen Mitchell Road. So I'll take this and sort of put out the historical perspective here. At the last meeting, I mentioned what I thought was a dump along Glen Mitchell Road. And I had one resident that had contacted me directly prior to that meeting. Since then, Gwen and I have gotten a couple other complaints that I don't think were spawned by the original conversation. They just so happened that other people were complaining about that, including one resident from Swickley Heights who just says he drives up and down Glen Mitchell Road all the time and thinks it looks disgusting, in a paraphrase. So we sent a letter to Kevin Flannery, the manager of Swickley Borough, and he said back what?
I talked to him about the property that Swickley Borough owns, which is the dump looking one, and he said that he met with his Public Works Department and that the borough will have the property on Glen Mitchell Road cleaned up by June 30th of this year.
Which is good. That's encouraging, and I think that's kind of Swickley. I've been there. I stopped by on my way up and down the hill one day, and the gate was wide open. So I walked in and I took some pictures, and it is not the dump that I thought it was.
There's a couple.
There's a couple, right?
There's
So
two.
So the one that we're talking about now has what can only be described as municipal storage stuff. A ton of old signs that they're not using, welcome to the borough of Swickley, a ton of speed limit signs, a lot of conduit, concrete conduit, plastic conduit that's laying there. Frankly, I think it's a tremendous liability from an attractive nuisance standpoint, because if I were a little kid, I would love to go crawl around in that stuff. There's a spreader that's there. There's some heavy equipment that's there. But again, it's not stuff that looks as if they're leaving there to go to waste. It's stuff that they're leaving there for storage. The dump site that I think people are talking about is a little upstream of Glen Mitchell Road, uphill. And I don't know exactly, you keep saying yes, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do, and I can't tell you where, but I do. You can see it from the road.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a little bit,
closer. I think it's closer to Minnock,
Yeah,
isn't it?
there's that fenced-in kind of vacant area
Right where they have the, used to
Right,
have
and
the
then just
dog
downhill of
thing
that,
right from there.
is the one that's really an eyesore.
Yeah, it's where that dog run was.
Right.
But isn't that the property that Minnock's going to build on?
no, I think he's going to build on the dog run, isn't he?
The big flat one with the perfect pine trees that,
Mhm.
where the dog run was, that's part of where his development's gonna be. His-
Right,
his
but
road's gonna come in
this
that way.
Just-
is right near there.
It's just the village side of that.
The
And that's
ravine?
more a dump. That looks like,
See, that's the one I thought we were talking about.
yeah, no, I know there are two.
Okay.
And I,
And they are not contiguous?
no.
You're coming up Glen Mitchell and there's Weber Road where the fire station is. We're
Right.
talking, the Swickley one is below Weber. Is this
Right,
above
it's
Weber?
I think it's above.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that's Mike Minnock's property.
I
where he's
think
going
it
to
is
develop. Yeah,
his.
I think he owns from his house all the way down to the
To
ravine at Weber.
Weber's. Yeah.
Yeah, that, he owns all of that.
So is that going to disappear in other? use
I
of other
would think
use?
think
it's
so.
part of the
Yeah.
development. I would think that all.
Plans
has-
show he's gonna be built all in that area.
So that may be resolved.
Here's what one of the residents said, and I don't know that we're talking about the same thing here, but she said there are actually two dumping areas, one directly across from McCoy Place.
Mhm.
Well, that's sort of it. It's
That's
a little
number one.
bit to
That's
the
the-
right.
that's the one we think is
Minnock's
Minnock.
property.
Mhm,
Yeah.
Okay.
it is.
And the more egregious one just downhill from the Mindenmeyer mailbox. That's the Swickley one.
Yes.
Okay. So if that's Minnick's property across from the McCoy Place,
His
Uh,
house is a house. If you look at straight, his house is to the left
correct.
and all that property is his.
Well, then I think that making sure that that's going to be mitigated should be in our letter to our email to him.
But did you take pictures on which one had the signs?
That's the
That's-
Swickley one,
Okay,
By Minnie Meyer.
which is being addressed.
allegedly. Yeah. And now, I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they are going to resolve this, because short of just not using it the way they're using it, I think it's tough to believe that they're ever going to.
And that has a gate. Yeah.
Well, it's hard to think that if there's old welcome to Sewickley signs, those are gonna be reused.
No.
They might be recyclable, but they're not
Right.
gonna be reused.
It does, from the picture, look like a lot of scrap.
Yep.
So maybe they just have to,
Yeah, let me see.
scrap prices are low, so people tend to stockpile it right now, and
Hmm.
maybe that's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's horrible.
That's the Swickley site.
They've got work to do.
He didn't give you any sense of what they were going to do to resolve that.
He did in this 2-sentence email.
But you said that there's things that they need a license?
I'm sorry,
You said they needed a license?
if they're using it as a dumping place, yeah.
But I don't know that that's the use. I really don't.
Yeah, but even if it's construction debris,
It's
they
still
need a
a dump.
license.
It's still a dump.
Still a dump. They need a license. Construction debris is a license.
Well, there's certainly, I mean, you can, if anybody wants to slide through these pictures, you can find there's huge piles of asphalt. It looks like they tore up a road or something and
It's
didn't have,
construction debris.
didn't have anywhere to put it.
It's construction debris.
Slide around there.
And that is a hazard.
But I guess, so when did you say, June 30th?
Like, almost 2 months, a month and a half.
Well, it's cool.
Well, that's fine, but I mean, I guess I'm a little concerned that we're gonna get to June 30th and we're gonna get there and they're gonna put a tarp over one of the piles and say, there it is, it's cleaned up. Or, you know, we've locked the gate. In an ideal world, I wish we had more certainty about what's gonna happen over this long period of time that we're
Well,
going.
in our zoning code or otherwise, do we have basically a nuisance law?
We do, you know, kind of, it's the property maintenance code, just don't have a junkyard, pretty much is how it's.
Well, why don't we, I mean, does it make sense to send the zoning officer out there? See what he says?
Now or after, give him a chance to
You're talking
clean it up.
6 weeks.
That looks like it's a job of a hoarder that doesn't want to throw the stuff away. But I would suspect if the council or whomever in Sewickley were aware of that, they'd tell them to clean it out.
All right, well, I
Let's
mean,
see what happens.
if we all think it's a good idea to just
Why
wait.
don't you just send it to the council
Yeah.
as an
I would.
anonymous photo?
So, you know, it's not,
I'm kidding.
it's not beneficial to, it's not critical to them. That's for damn sure. It doesn't do us, either Sewickley or us, a favor. It looks to me as though it's been there for quite a while. So go find your hoarder and tell them to take it home.
It's been there long enough that somebody
Yeah.
could make a strong case that whatever they thought it was when they put it there, it's become waste.
Absolutely. And of course, the incentive is we could always move it to the hoarder's driveway.
I think give them the 6 weeks.
You think what?
Just do nothing for 6 weeks and see what happens.
Mhm.
That's fine.
Well, you have to. If he says he's gonna clean it up.
All right, and then with Minnick, we'll talk to him. Right?
Is that, how is that property zoned?
The Sewickley property,
Yeah,
I'll have to look, I think it's R3. I think everything down there's R3.
so is junk storage a
Yeah.
permitted use?
Probably not, I'll have to grab the zoning ordinance, but probably not, just in, you know, just,
So that leads me to, what's the status of finding our ordinances online?
I'll call Laserfish and General Code and figure out how we get that link added to our site so that it's fully searchable. for
Yeah, please
everyone.
do. Because that day I was all fired up, I wanted to go look at it and I thought this would be the ideal time to have the ordinances online. All right, thanks.
I found the zoning code online.
The zoning code?
Subdivision, land development, zoning ordinance, and zoning map have all been on there.
Yeah.
Since we've had the website.
All right, next is our discussion of SWOT analysis follow-up, and that should have been in your packet. I just kind of want to move this project along, and I'm not exactly sure. I'm happy to take suggestions from folks on how exactly we go about this. It seems to me that the next two things that need to happen with these lists is, number one, they need to be prioritized. And number two, the words that are here need to be converted into more complete sentences, as Commissioner Williams suggested last time we worked on this.
Yeah,
I mean-
I still owe you mine, sorry. about that.
I kind of think it makes sense to move some stuff around, because I think as you move stuff around, some are going to get lumped together.
Yeah, it's consolidate, I think.
Consolidate, yeah. So,
Prioritize, consolidate.
all right, so why don't we start with strengths and prioritize? I mean, is that on this list here, is there something that somebody thinks is the number one overall strength?
Well, in talking to most other municipal folk, the financial condition has to be high on the list.
Okay. Which is already number one.
Yep.
Yep, I agree with that.
I would say general public services if you're looking to consolidate categories.
Mm-hmm.
You know, police,
Yeah, fire department authority,
Police, yes.
fire department, public works,
Mhm.
police.
service, yeah, the
I
service,
put it under public services.
public services.
So you're saying police, fire department.
That would even include school.
Okay.
Public works, which we really don't have here.
Well, you sort of kind of do with the
Roads.
authority, yeah. But it's a little loose, that's what I say.
Yeah, fire. I mean, fire, police, public works. Well, we have fire department twice, so. School district, I guess, could be put in there. I'd say all of those lumped in. I would probably put staff next.
You would put the public services below
Financial.
financial? Okay, staff?
Staff, including management. We have management, we have staff.
All right.
And almost within that, I would put the diversity of, like, this is not properly phrased, but community talent base, so to speak, residential talent base. I think we have a lot of good talent to draw upon, although it's quite small.
I wouldn't, that stretches my imagination to put that down on strengths.
Okay,
It's almost non-existent, how could it be a strength?
okay. Because of the lack of
No,
numbers,
I understand.
because of the lack of numbers,
I don't know whether we have numbers or not. But, you know, the interesting question that comes about under every one of these, the subsequent question is, what are your level of expectations?
mhm.
Because that's the only way you're going to get to a definition of.
Yeah, scratch that. I'm not sure how tax base got into the strengths either.
I think that's included within financial condition.
Okay,
Okay, so tax base we can take off the list? Or you want to add that within?
I wouldn't. if anything has to be really defined and determine what are you going to do with it, it's our revenues. That always comes first in any SWAT I've ever been involved in.
Mhm.
I don't think you can talk frankly about financial condition unless you're talking about the tax base, you're talking about Masonic, talking about the
Yeah.
manor.
Mhm.
Actually, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, in a profit-making world, okay, the first thing you do in a SWAT is go out and do a market study. What's your competition? How can you say that's a strength? Defend that. Okay? We don't have that here, so it becomes a lot easier. But that doesn't make the fact that a drill down exercise is not needed. Every subject gets drilled down.
Yes.
But I think one tax base here is a strength because we're not headed for bankruptcy.
Well, is this perhaps a time where we should be taking tax base and making it not just a sentence and making it into an affirmative statement of why we believe it's a strength?
Why not?
All right, so what is that sentence? What is that statement? Our tax base, what?
Provides revenue.
Why don't you let me come back at that?
Okay.
And the same thing goes for, now I don't see it on the list. Oh, yeah, under weaknesses, industrial park.
Mhm.
And I'm only turning to that because as far as I know, there's a change in ownership, although I can't seem to prove that. And if that's the case, and it's a weakness, why do we consider that a weakness?
Yeah, I guess that was part of my tax base question, because
It is.
a really healthy community has residential, commercial, industrial.
Yep.
We are
It's called balance.
80% residential.
Yeah.
And a perhaps slightly underutilized commercial. We
So
have no industrial.
if you wouldn't mind, I'll try to come up with a statement on tax base, and for my own edification, I'd like to come up with a statement on industrial park, which may be an incentive for me to find out what the hell's going on over there.
Have we heard anything more, Gwen?
I have not heard anything about the ownership, but I did hear that FedEx is moving out.
Which has,
Is that final?
It's their lease is over August of 2017, but they have a new facility that we think they're moving to this August.
Oh, okay, so it's,
So-
it's
The lease is there for another year. I don't know what the lease breaking clause is, you know,
do you know what their tax revenue loss will be?
I don't.
But it's a loss.
Business privilege, yeah.
Are we comfortable saying that tax base and tax rate are basically the same idea? It could be consolidated.
I would say so, yes.
We said we think Quaker Valley School District is part of the public services.
Yes.
So Masonic Village and clustered residents? Question mark.
Define clustered residence for me. The condos attached, or,
Yeah, both. I mean, both Masonic and Swickley Heights Manor are dense.
okay, yeah,
I'm not positive why that's a strength.
I think the idea was that it's easy to spread messages if necessary. It's easy to, there are easy pockets of communications.
Easy to maintain.
Yeah.
I mean,
mhm.
mhm.
Not that we've ever really done it before, but if you needed to get a message out between Masonic Village and the Manor, you could hit those two newsletters and
Just like that.
you'd be done.
It's happened before. Professional
I can
services.
tell you who to tell if it's Masonic Village, and they'll take care of everything.
Well, the same is true in the Manor, I'm sure.
All right, professional services, I assume implies legal and engineering.
Yeah.
Why did we put down communications? It's pretty broad. Maybe it's not, but why is it there? I don't remember.
I think it's primarily because of Matt's efforts.
Right. We have communication with Matt. He writes he writes the monthly communication
those
letter.
connected. So
He
it's
puts it on film. I
Direct
mean,
to the
it's-
residents.
Yeah.
Communications direct to the
Right.
residents.
I think safety probably goes up the list someplace.
Yeah.
That is true and more important every day.
Mhm.
So when we finish with this prioritization process, what are we gonna do with this list?
Well, what we said last time was, we thought that it started to form the backbone of a strategic plan. And I don't know if that's something that we want to continue to work towards.
I think if we just have a plan for every entity in the township, it would be a huge step forward. There's an awful lot of people, including some people who work here, who don't know the answers to some questions that I thought were fairly straightforward.
I mean, I wouldn't focus, in terms of what's next, I wouldn't focus on the strengths quite as much as the weaknesses.
Weaknesses, I agree with that.
Where I was coming from is I would focus on the weaknesses, prioritize those, and
Go get them.
see if there's a plan that you can develop to address the weaknesses.
That's fine with me.
Well, weaknesses are a cousin of opportunity.
Mhm.
So if you can't find an opportunity in there, you should take the weakness off.
Do we have any more
They should almost
developable
tie.
Hmm.
real estate beyond what Minnick's proposing to do?
Not much. We have one parcel that belongs to a family and, larger parcel, but they have strongly indicated multiple times they have no intention of developing it. So a lot of what's left are infill. If you have a big lot, you can subdivide it and put a second house there. We don't have other larger parcels.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I was asking last meeting. We seem to be land poor.
That came up in our meeting with Scenic Pittsburgh, that most of us and most of the residents, when asked where they live, say they live in Sewickley.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows where Aleppo is.
It's in Syria, at least it used to be.
That's right.
Well, until last week.
Yeah. And they said you need to brand yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have a lot of good things where we could brand ourselves. The only problem is there's no land. And I guess you could increase property values by saying Aleppo, a beautiful place to live, so to speak.
Well, keep in mind, branding is also how people view you.
Yes.
People think well of us. They think we're hicks. Do they think we're hillbillies? Do they think we're, what do they think? That's their brand.
Yeah, and the point they were
Perception.
making was nobody knows who you are at all.
On
Actually,
the other
that's
hand,
not
we
true.
can stay like we
If
Okay.
are.
I say
You can live in the
Aleppo,
Sewickley zip code without paying $550,000
Yep.
for a house 10 feet from the boulevard.
Some
Right.
things that are sweet.
And live in
if
the
I
Quaker Valley
say
School District.
Aleppo,
Right.
I have more people who say, I've read about Aleppo in the newspaper.
Wow.
That's
And
not
it
good.
goes back
Yeah.
8-9 years ago to the fiasco that went on here with the police department and the firing of the guns and the
Okay.
all
Well.
pre-Gwen and pre this board.
Hey,
Well,
And
that's-
people read about it.
Yeah.
I mean, these
hey,
are people that don't live near in Sewickley. These are people that live in the city.
well, you see, that is our brand.
That's
whether
the
we like it or
brand,
not.
and it's not a good one.
So
Okay.
do I hear everybody saying that they think that image is one of our stronger weaknesses and it's something that is probably addressable?
Yep.
Unlike, for example, the thing you brought up, we can't make more land, right?
No, but if I view that we have some primary responsibilities that really focus on the financial condition of the township,
Mhm.
our infrastructure,
Mhm.
and our public services in the nature of fire and police protection. And, between that and the roads and the sewers and the water, I mean, that's where we need to focus on maintaining the strength of the town. And so,
My opinion is that that's a reasonable condition today.
no, you're right, but we need to. we
That's
need
a
to be-
strength,
We
you
need
know,
to be
and that's-
looking, next year, 5 years, 10 years down the road to make sure we're staying on top of things.
Well, that's what these exercises are supposed to result in.
Mhm.
Well, what other weaknesses are on this list do we think are things that should be addressed?
Well, I think we still come back to 3 distinct communities
As a weakness.
as a weakness. And I don't think we've resolved how we can, blend those communities.
Okay, so I'll promote that issue. Processes and procedures, this gets into something, or you said you wanted to talk about when we finish here, right?
Yeah.
It's a weakness.
4 or 5 weeks ago, I guess it was about that long, I approached Gwen and said that I felt that the things here were very siloed. That's one of my words.
What's the word?
They're silos. They're silos of
Silo.
information.
Okay.
Okay, so that means that people hold everything close to their vest, and that's their power base, which breaks down communications and a lot of other things. And so in our discussions, I started asking questions about how is this done and how is that done, and why is this done and why? And there's no processes written down to say how this place functions. If you have personnel changes, you have a problem, the way it is. Is there inefficiencies? I can guarantee you there's redundancies. And that makes for not the best employee relations in the long run. So Gwen has started to write them. Would you like to take us a little further?
Sure. Art termed it a brain dump, which I thought was a very effective way of saying what it is that I'm doing right now. He gave me some broad categories just to think about and explain what happens in those. What happens in public works? Who calls them out? What are their main responsibilities? How our police contract? A little bit of history on it, and then how it's set up, how many years, how it's been working. So I've just been taking some of the main categories that he gave me and just sitting at the computer and writing down, this is what, this is why, this is when. Our tax base and what kind of taxes we collect and who collects them for us, since they're all a bunch of different agencies that do it. So I'm working on just kind of getting all the information on these categories out. And then once you have that, you can review it, decide what other categories you might want me to talk about, if there's something on there that I didn't address, and then take that information and make what I know would be useful on my end is a guidebook on procedures. Here's what we do and here when we do it, so that if I'm ever out again or something, I can give it to Kim. I wrote stuff when I was out before for that time period, but this is going to be more of a yearly look at what happens in the London. So that's what's
And so
underway.
the processes are sort of the umbrella, big umbrella, and once you have those defined and some of those you vocalized, then you write the procedures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is what happens when. This is what happens how. This is what happens why. And now you have something that can be passed on, such as new commissioners change here every 2 to 4 years, right? How long does it take a commissioner to get up to speed? Some of them never get up to speed. I know I came in here with a pretty good background on business, and I was befuddled for about 4 weeks, like what in the hell? Now, public service and private service are quite different, no question about that. But there's no need to have that kind of void. And so I decided that it's a big task, but it's not one that shouldn't move in a fairly smooth way. And then I think the next meeting you brought up the SWOT. Well, processes and procedures are the basis for SWOT, and will answer a lot of the questions in here. If you can't put a process and procedure to each one of these lines, why is the line there? So if you can get the more of those you can get out of the way, the faster you can make progress. Everybody was thinking that I was going to write the processes and procedures. I don't do that. I have never done that, and it's a terrible mistake. The people who have to live with it should be the ones that write it. They know more. They're not looking for mushroom-shaped clouds. They're looking for efficiency. And hopefully making it a lot more fun. Work should be fun.
All right.
So that's where Gwen is doing now. She's given me tremendous encouragement and support. And I also made a comment at the agency authority last month that Nicole and Gwen will be working closely together on this. And I made that announcement simply because I didn't want the authority to think, what the hell's going on, right? When she needs Nicole, she is going to call on Nicole. And of course, anybody else that is, as these things go down, like Public Works, et cetera, you do the same process. So you're not plowing new ground. So that's basically it.
All right. So let's move processes and procedures up on our list of weaknesses in hopes that at this time next year, that's a strength and not a weakness.
I would say end of summer.
Okay.
If we can't have, this is a small operation.
Yeah.
If we can't have those things done in 2 or 3 months, I think we should look at ourselves.
Curiosity, how many categories are we working with now, roughly?
Well, when I last reviewed it, and I let people work. We were about 8 or 10 that were kind of major.
Yeah,
They're
tax
the ones that-
collection, and then it has different
Yeah,
sections.
so not
on it.
overwhelming.
Public
No,
safety has
those are the
different
kinds that come up
groupings.
and hit you on the forehead and say, oh, yeah, right.
Okay.
Put those down. Otherwise, you put them off until the next one. And it doesn't make it an overwhelming task, and it doesn't end up as a St. James version of the Bible either.
Okay.
And I would like to think that within this year, we could produce a handbook for commissioners.
All right. Great. How about some of these other weaknesses? Industrial park. Is that something that we can do anything with? Is that a higher or lower priority weakness?
From what I know, which is very, very little, I don't think that we can make a discerning statement on that now.
Okay.
But I certainly think that hopefully our solicitor can find out something from them. He's talking to the people up in Canada. Did they close or didn't they close? And find out who, in fact, is really going to buy the property. And contact their whatever manager happens to be spearheading that and find out. Would you mind telling me what you have in mind? We'd like to help.
All right.
Yeah,
So
what
I've kind
can we
of
do?
parked
It's
that.
just a little detective work. I don't know what else to put down there.
I've kind of parked that in the middle of the list for
Yeah,
now.
I would park it.
Small population size, high priority, low priority, something we can do something
If we
about.
get a lot of chickens, that'll change.
It strikes me as something that's a low priority, right?
I don't know. I don't think we want to turn it into a bedroom discussion.
No, I don't think it's
That rooster
high
went supper.
priority.
It is what it is.
It
It is what it is. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's not something that we can do. Much.
Yeah, sort of, if you like, if you're land poor and the
Right.
population goes up, what happens? If you know, I don't know what the hell to do with that one.
And I think the next 3 are clearly lumped together.
Community relations, lack of
3
community
distinct
events.
communities, lack of community events.
Oh, right. And they could probably all be lumped together, sort of under the heading of community relations, right?
Yeah.
And
We have
website,
location as a strength and out of the way as a weakness.
are you putting the website in community relations or?
No,
No?
I haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
We'll talk about the website. That was your addition to the list, right, Art?
I'm sorry again?
I think that was your addition to the list. What do we have to say about the
It
website?
was.
Okay.
It was. Our website is forlorn.
Well, I mean, I said the same thing when I came in here, and I sat down with Gwen, and we've made some changes to it. But in frankness, I really don't know what more to do with it. What does it want? What does a Aleppo Township website want? To be more usable?
Website should be a reflection of where we want to go.
I don't know what that means.
Well, we're making a list of all of our strengths and weaknesses. What do we expect to do with that? They're going to be the same as when we're finished as when we started? Are they going to be moved in a certain direction? Are they going to be developed in some other direction? That should all be reflected in your website, in my opinion. There's nothing, I said forlorn, I didn't say terrible.
No, I get that, but
You know, it's your window on the world. We don't have, what other window on the world do we have?
How frequently is our window used?
yeah, I guess that's sort of the question is, you're going to develop all this content for somebody to go look at it once.
But I guess theoretically, if it's better, perhaps more will come. I'm not convinced of that.
I'm not convinced of that either.
Does it have a calendar on it?
It does. It's kind of sporadically used, right?
Yeah, the calendar is normally
People go to it for,
not very informative when I looked at it anyway.
people go to it for the trash schedule. I think that's one of our big hits, is they lost theirs and they want to know when.
Who manages it?
Me, such that it is. I mean,
Oh,
I add
okay,
the,
well,
I add
In your
the
spare time.
agendas and the
I mean, there are
minutes to
certainly
it.
Well,
We
All
have
right,
there's a lot-
consultants
there's
who
a lot
can
of other
update
things
larger
accepted.
things.
It's a weakness.
there's a lot of other things that can be done with the website.
Okay.
For instance, I was going to where the hell did I go?
The conference?
Municipalities Conference, Allegheny County. Okay, and I only had my business card, which I did not want to show to anybody, right? So I asked Gwen, let's get me a business card, so if anybody asks me or wants to trade, we have something to trade. So we made a business card. We also used the logo for the township, which is on our website, right? And on the back, I told her to put a GA code, which is if you have a telephone with a reader on it, you turn my card over and point it and click it, you're on our website. So it's access. How are people supposed to go to the website? They don't know what the name is. So you put the name out any way you can.
Okay.
If they don't use it, then we change it until they do use it. And if they don't use it, then we know we have another problem.
They being residents, is that who you want to use them?
It would be other municipalities, other people who are serving on boards that might want to know what the hell's going on down here, or vice versa. Suppliers, services. Say, hey, why don't you come over and give us a quote on your website? Well, fine. Who are you and where are you? Well, here, go to our website and find out. That website should answer those kinds of things. So it depends upon it depends upon how we view the people that we would like to send to our website, because there's a benefit to us.
Mm-hmm. I guess my take on it is that my wife works in website development. That's what she does. And
I like her better already.
with everything, there's cost, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can do this. I just don't know that I necessarily see a concurrent benefit to that cost.
That's what the SWAT might help us see.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Good.
Lack of retail services. I mean, that's
I'm at a loss there. I don't remember.
Not much.
Is there a possibility that you can do retail services in the industrial park?
I think so.
I
I
mean,
mean,
zoning would allow it?
I'll have to look. It is the commercial industrial, not the,
not
Not
retail.
heavy industrial.
yeah, it's not heavy industrial, and it's not the Weber's Corner, which was supposed to encourage storefront businesses.
We talked about a restaurant.
Would be nice.
but I don't know in the middle of an industrial park. People travel a long ways to come to a good restaurant. You don't think so, huh?
Well, you run into the same thing. Is it convenient? Is it?
Right.
You know, you're getting into way out of my area.
Right, and that's also gonna be the job of the industrial park manager.
Yeah, you don't know how they're going to try
So-
to market it.
Well, that's something that's not necessarily I mean, that's not small population size, right? That's something we could maybe do something with.
Perhaps, yeah.
How about lack of parks and recreation center?
I think that's big. But again, there's no land, so. Not much you're gonna do.
You know, Joanne, I don't think you were here yet, but Matt has asked me to sit on a committee at Masonic in regard to their fall festival to see once again if there's a linkage potential. And then my wife said, that's not gonna really improve this community divisiveness because as soon as you say Masonic, you open it back up. So I said, just off the top of my head, why don't we use Fern Hollow for an Aleppo gathering? Or she said, actually, the most effective gathering we had was right here on this property. It was small, but the fire department came out and they had contests with other fire departments and the kids and stuff. So I don't have an answer right now, but I think community picnics et al. Could
Yeah,
be
we talked
incredibly
about it
beneficial.
last year, and
Yeah.
we didn't
Put
do
me
Wait a
it.
minute, wait. We're talking about two different things though.
Yeah.
Talking about park and recreation center.
Well, with the fact that we don't have one doesn't give us a place to have community events.
I got you. I see.
I may have misheard you. What did you mean when you said your wife made a comment about the divisiveness between?
There's still almost more than an underpinning in the community that as soon as you say Masonic Village, oh, they're taking over, oh, they're doing this. And so to try and have a get-together gathering at Masonic Village, you're starting one step back.
Well,
Joanne, you can explain it better.
that's a serious weakness.
It is.
You have a large population who vote,
With buses.
and they're active voters. If you don't believe that, make them mad.
You know, we had a candidate for commissioner say we feel left out.
Yep.
And
And I think I put on here something about bringing the communities together. I don't know where the heck it ended up. I don't even see it now.
well, we have community engagement, we have community events.
Well, I'm talking about how can we make, everybody knows where Masonic Village is. Everybody
Mhm.
knows where,
Well, that's what we're talking about. That's the problem.
yeah, and we have 3 communities here.
Mhm.
That's the problem.
Yeah. So
And
if you're going to have a get together, people are going to have to see some commonality as to why they should turn off their television or their
Mhm.
grill out back and come over here. That you have a lot of competition out there today.
Mhm.
I've been fighting this battle for a long time. It is.
Well, I agree it's a problem, but I'm not sure of the consequence. There's bad feelings, but
Well, who did what to whom to give the bad feelings other than?
it was just, my personal opinion, having lived here in the late 70s and living here again, this was 500 people, right? And then Swickley Heights Manor appeared. That overwhelmed those 500 people.
Yeah.
And then Masonic Village appeared. And now the two overwhelmed completely.
Totally, absolutely.
And Mr. Trapisano said, we feel left out. And you guys can do whatever you want to do. And yet at the same time, when I ask, what have we done to your detriment? Nothing. So it's a perception. And I think
It
it's,
is.
well, it is a
Perception's
perception.
everything.
Perception is truth.
Yeah.
yeah, and I
So
think
whether
it,
you're, you
And
know,
Joanne
whether-
made this statement here one night that, I think it was when we were talking about the commissioners, that I think you used the McCoy Road was what I remember you saying, they're left out. How did that occur?
Well, it's back to the same thing, and some of it is their fault. I mean, we've tried. We had that at the road and the signage, and We gave out the email address, we gave out the website, and please get online and
I guess my question would be left out of what? It's a feeling.
well, it's a good question.
All my wife was saying, I think she's right. As soon as it's almost like you have to have a neutral ground. And this is the only neutral ground we have, and it's very limited. And that's why I just kind of
And
casually said,
that's a good question. left
I
out
just
of
kind of
what?
casually
Yeah.
said, well, let's pick a neutral ground. We give money to Fern Hollow, tell them we're going to have a party up there.
Well, what about at the firehouse this Saturday? The firehouse is having an open house.
Yes.
Who's going?
I'm going,
I'm going.
I'm going.
I'm going, you going?
I'm going for sure.
You're going.
Yes.
You're going.
Is it worth trying to go there more as a group or have a presence there rather than just 5 individuals?
I think
I
that
don't
would,
think
I
it
think that
matters.
you're talking about impact, and I would say, yeah, that works.
Okay. I'm going to have a very limited time there.
Yeah, I don't know that
But
we can.
I think at the Fall Festival at Masonic Village to have all of us for an hour. Because I did see a lot of the community there.
There was. We had something in the range of 1,500 people.
And what's the date? That's a different date than the Harvest Festival.
Yeah, I do not know. Do
It's not the same as Harvest Festival. They did
you recall, Matt?
Because they know that.
on purpose.
I'll find out.
It's the end of September, or, middle of September. I think,
Yeah.
The Masonic thing.
But they did say they changed it purposefully.
They probably
And
know.
I personally, I would strongly encourage us to do whatever we can to make a presence, give them support. They're drawing people in that are not anywhere near Aleppo, who may never have heard of Aleppo. They're drawing them onto a campus up there, which is beautiful in almost all aspects. What's the driving force for them doing that? They want other people to know about Masonic Village. And then they also have an open house for the people to go through Masonic Village. They're marketing it.
It's marketing.
Okay? But they're having all the rest of these draws. We're having, what's the little farm animals?
Petting zoo.
Petting zoo, thank you very much.
How many meetings have there been?
Chickens.
Hmm?
How many meetings have there been?
No roosters.
This will be our third. I think our
When's it
third.
coming up?
I'd have to look, but it's in the middle of summer. So, it's, quite frankly, it's drawn significantly better than what I expected.
I think we've defined
So,
this as a tremendous opportunity.
You know where
I-
some of the separation came, and it just occurred to me. And I'm going to go back to the meeting. This is
Back to what?
prior to this board.
Hmm.
And go back to the sewer project. And there was clearly an animosity on the part of Sewickley Manor to the people that lived on McCoy and Whipper.
Mhm.
I mean, I was attacked verbally, not attacked physically, by people from the manor who accused me of voting for we didn't have
Tap-in fee.
Tap fee.
a tap-in fee. And I did that on purpose because I lived on McCoy Place. And little did they know that when that vote took place, I lived in the manor.
Mhm.
And then we got into, they already paid a tap-in fee, which they really didn't pay a tap-in fee. And I had paid a sewer bill myself all those years that I lived there. So, I mean, there was all of this this animosity towards single-family houses.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That
and rumor-
lived on
and rumor mill
McCoy.
started.
And I think that set up this whole, the manor versus, and then we got into Masonic and their issues with, and it was nasty. It was nasty.
to reopen the divide, I think.
Yeah, do you agree?
I do.
Yeah,
Things have been kind of quiet, and I think that reopened
yeah.
the feeling of us's versus them. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just.
You got
what
away
you
with
feel.
this and you didn't pay that. and
So
it's
what
quiet.
I'm hearing is that they felt powerless. Is that correct?
They what?
They felt powerless.
Powerless.
They had something that was
I
occurring.
don't know. I don't know.
Well, I've
Nobody
had
wants
feedback
there,
from voting-
nobody wants to pay money for anything, and I understand.
But people normally don't get to a point of attack unless they feel powerless. So if they didn't have whatever it takes to put them in the right frame of mind, we did it.
Actually, I recall the whole thing. It was, I mean, you may have felt attacked, but the animosity was toward the entire board. It wasn't.
Well, it may have been, but we won't visit that place again.
And at the end of the day,
Okay.
it
Well, this
was
is
a
important.
bad communication issue.
Yeah.
The people that came to the meeting here that were very upset felt like the deal had been done and they didn't know about it till it was over.
The deal had been done for 2.5 years. And it was recorded every single
but
meeting.
nobody's
Now,
pointing
we didn't
fingers.
have,
Nobody's
we
pointing-
did not have the communication that we
Right,
have
and
now.
that's the point I'm trying to make.
I agree. And what we have now is wonderful. And I am very thankful for it.
Some feedback, oh, sorry.
Pardon me, yeah,
Some feedback I received as far as powerlessness is I've heard people say, well, if the Manor and Masonic get together and want something, the rest of us don't have the numbers to defeat that, so why participate? Because
Mhm.
the Manor and Masonic work together behind the scenes on everything. It doesn't matter what we think because the deals are already done.
Mhm.
And that's what's coming back to me. However, true or not true that is, that's some of the comments that are coming back to me. Why bother? They already
Okay.
make their deals before.
For the uninitiated, what degree of truth is in there?
Well, let's ask ourselves that. What
Oh,
degree
to
of
the
truth-
uninitiated, it is true that if Masonic and Swickley Heights Manor get together, we can do whatever we want,
That's a fact.
but we never have.
But if the Manor and McCoy Road get together, they could do whatever they want because
Correct.
they'll overpower.
Correct,
You have a third, and a third here.
correct.
Last time I checked, third and a third is 60%.
Yeah.
Okay, so my math is right. I'm happy.
And Gwen, I think, during the police event, which was the other major event recent, everybody was on the same side, I think.
this was 8 or 9 years ago.
But that, everybody was together on
I
that.
don't know.
No?
I mean, there were clearly, the board was turned over as a result. This is when it was.
Yeah,
we
But,
all
but there
lost-
wasn't the McCoy versus Masonic versus Swickley Heights Manor event.
No, I don't think so.
So the sewer was the event that brought it up.
Again,
We've been there, we've revisited this. I have been on this board for 7 or 8 years. I will stand by the fact that I think, and I'm not saying everything went perfectly, obviously. We had an engineering mistake, but this was not a new event. And these things went on for 2 or 3 years, and I was very sympathetic, believe me. I don't want to pay it either.
I think it's water down the drain.
It is.
Yeah,
fun.
So,
We all get those
but-
bills
okay,
every
but I
month.
think we still have the opportunity to make
Yeah.
every effort we can to not have one of those happen again and to try and bring the community together over maybe that's the point, bring them together over something.
But it's interesting, just one point that I'll make is that I watched Tony when he had to deal with increasing the water bill. When Westview hiked the rates
The first
on
time,
the first time.
right.
And all of a sudden, I saw him come from a perspective of, well, it's what can I do? I mean, we can't do anything about it. We just, I have to tell the people that they have to pay more. They're not going to like it, and people are going to complain. But But so when the shoe's on the other foot,
Mhm.
it was interesting to watch.
Yeah, but I think that that's a good example that you've brought up. I think that in an instance where we are immediately and clearly communicating with people,
Mhm.
they accept bad news. They don't like it, but they take it. And I think that's a different scenario than what I hear Commissioner Dara saying about his perception of the sewer, which was not necessarily upfront in terms of time. It didn't come up, the rate didn't come up early. It came up by the time it was too late to do anything
Yeah.
about it. And I think that,
Everyone that I've talked to felt they were blindsided.
I think it's just,
Well, I mean,
it's just a
it
matter
did
of
come
saying,
up, it was discussed.
And that's their
It was
perception.
at every meeting.
You-
But
you talked
whether
for 5
people
years.
came to
Yeah.
meetings
Okay.
or they chose to read the minutes, but we did not, you're right, we did not communicate.
or put it in a letter the way we did with the sewer rates,
Right.
or
We
explain.
did not communicate. Well, we did letters, I think. There were letters that went out.
There were.
There were
I
letters.
think what the main thing was is the money didn't get announced until very far down the line, and that's what upset people.
The rates.
And they understood the rates. I think they all understood that we've been talking about it for years. But
The
they were
rates.
waiting for the rate announcement, and that came very late in the game.
Correct.
Yeah.
But we didn't have the bond, nothing was settled. And, yeah, there were letters that went out. And,
Not on the rates.
On the rates.
not on the
On the
rates,
rates.
no.
And
Well,
that's what I'm
you can't
saying.
do rates
But the
until
rates
you
are
get
all
the
people care about.
rate. Well,
They don't care
you
about.
can't
that.
Okay,
manufacture
we
the
really don't need
rates
to, we
until.
really don't need to
Okay.
go
We
back
don't-
and
yes,
relitigate the
let's
issue.
not go
Again,
back.
the question
Let's
is just,
I'm beginning to think about Yogi Berra.
What? Let's talk about
Deja vu all
chickens.
over again.
Yeah, absolutely.
okay,
Just to comment quickly about communications here, which we missed the ball way back when, and we're still living with it, okay? So to go back to the website, I think that we should accentuate anything that increases our communications rapidly. Keyword rapidly. Okay, you can't wait for 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. It's got to be out now, and putting it up on the screen is one thing. Another is that, are you aware we have our own TV for all of the residents of Sonic Village?
I am.
Channel 950, they just changed the channel. Channel 956.
Mhm.
Will White is the fellow that basically does that. We ought to have something on there every month.
Why not have this,
why not have, I mean, why not have,
the meetings?
Isn't this
we've
on
talked to
there?
him, we've talked to him about
We've asked
that.
them to put this on a list.
Most of the people there don't watch 956 all the time. No, they don't
Okay.
all the time. To ask them to sit down and watch something for a half an hour, first of all, they fall asleep. Secondly,
I can't hear.
Yeah.
That we won't talk about that.
Okay, so what do you envision seeing there?
well, for one, I think we ought to increase it. There's a communication channel there and it's for free. Why shouldn't we come up with a little rinky-dink thing of constantly bing, bing, bing of what the commissioners are doing? And if that's the case, maybe they'll turn their television on at 9:56, or maybe they'll turn the television on to watch our meetings, which is all we want them to do. We're not asking them for anything,
Uh-oh.
except
We're
we
asking
have
them
to
to
create
give
the
up
curiosity.
info.
Wait, Chris and Gwen are talking.
I just said you could send the agenda.
Pardon me?
You put the agenda up. If it's a scrolling station.
It's not a scrolling
It's
station, no. It's you have it for about 15 seconds, you get down 3 lines and it clicks over. That's one of the things I've said, slow that sucker down. But anyway, I just, all of my say is you have a communication channel that is available to us, it's for free.
Mhm.
If we don't use it, shame on us.
Mhm. All right.
We have a
Yep.
website that's already
So
there.
same as the website
Yeah,
and
it's
for
in
what?
good condition, so
Okay.
on and so forth. If we don't use it, shame on us.
Out of the way, there seems there's nothing we can do about that. Anybody disagree? Move that to the bottom of the list.
Right.
Lack of diversified workforce. I don't even remember what we meant with that.
I don't know.
Get rid of it?
Get rid of it.
High water and sewer rates.
And relatively, that's
Uh,
not true.
Compared to
Get
what?
rid of it.
Yeah.
Relationship between township and authority.
Stays, but under evaluation.
Okay.
Right.
COG.
You want to get rid of it.
I'd love to get rid of it. I mean, get rid of it as in not be a part of it,
Right.
not just,
Get rid of it and be a part of another cog?
What's this under? It's under
We've
weakness.
been
Yeah.
through this.
I don't think we can do that.
So are they gonna survive?
I think they're
I think
going to survive.
They're doing all right.
There's been some improvements already with 2 board members running it. I mean, and they've already interviewed candidates for the new executive director. At least one of them is a very strong candidate. And there have been some initiatives taken already. MS4 is the stormwater thing that everyone has to participate in. And I volunteered to be on that committee, so that's something that the COG is looking to help develop the public outreach materials for as another function of what they can do.
So improvement
So-
might be coming.
I think it is.
Here's the thing with the COG, the way I look at it.
Everybody wants some water?
Yes, I do. That would be wonderful.
Commissioner Scholar went to a couple meetings at the beginning of this year. She doesn't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't hear anybody else jumping up and down saying that they want to do it. It strikes me as if nobody wants to do it, then why are we doing it? And I'm just not convinced that the salt contract makes it worth it. You want to do it?
No, I was
For salt and
waving
waste,
off-
You just
waving
raised
off-
your hand. You're in.
Waving off water.
salt and garbage.
We
I
failed.
understand
I
that.
think you
Is
just
that what we get?
volunteered.
Salt and garbage?
And can we participate without going to the meeting? I mean, they seem annoyed that we're not going to the
No, they
meetings.
do get.
Because
annoyed.
there are, however,
Because they need a
13, 14
quorum, yeah.
communities, and only 6 of them ever show up on a consistent basis. So
And this is-
there are communities that
And this is
just
an
never show.
organization that's been struggling in addition to, so.
That
what
was
do they
like
think
that
of us?
forever. You know, they have the consistent people that attend, and then the people that just,
Well, then maybe that's the
Okay.
same as a website. It's no good, nobody goes.
see, I have seen, yeah, I've always been more pro-cog than Matt. Because I get value from it.
And that's always been important to me. That's always been something that makes me kind of hang on, is that you say that.
I think changes are coming, and I've noticed an improvement in different ideas, different kinds of communication, outreach. I'm not involved in their finances. I've told them they should increase their dues for years. The fact that you kept your dues the same for 20 years, why are you bragging about that if the services don't match? So
Right.
increase the dues. So
They don't like it because a commissioner doesn't attend?
Yes.
the
'Cause
board,
they have-
every municipality has to have
Has to
send
send
someone to sit on the board, and when they don't have their board full,
Okay, we don't need to solve these problems tonight.
Yeah.
Let's just say that it remains an issue. It's not something we'll demote. We'll kind of keep it in the middle under evaluation and talk about it down the road. Emergency management education. I think this is one that we can promote in its importance and get done fairly easily.
Yes.
Right? Scope of
I
committees.
think that came from Art under policies and procedures. Art?
I think that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I would say, if you wish, you could take that off and put it, and we'll put it under business processes.
Okay, I just put it under as a subcategory of processes. and
That's fine.
procedures. Informed electorate, that's sort of a subset of communication, right?
Yeah.
And then we're back where we started, lack of developable land, small population size, and out of the way. All right, well, with everybody's thanks, I think that we should stop here for the night and continue to plug at this maybe next time we look at the opportunities. And I'm, again, open for thoughts on the best process for doing this, if anybody has any suggestions.
Before we go any further, boss, I committed to doing a write-up, except that I didn't mark it down here on my list. What, do you remember what?
Tax
Tax
base
base,
and
tax
the-
rate,
And the,
Oh, tax base and, yeah, okay.
and the according revenue streams.
and the industrial park.
Yeah, okay.
And the Masonic meeting.
And the COG, you said you were gonna solve the COG.
You were gonna find out about
How do
bingo.
you spell that?
organization.
All right, let's get back to our agenda here. Is there any other unfinished business? Hearing none, is there any new business?
I just have a few things just to announce.
Go ahead.
You have flyers here for the Fern Hollow Nature Center Summer Celebration. That is free to Aleppo residents because of our membership join that we did last summer. So I'll put it on the website, and that's something you tell your neighbors, tell your friends, post them. I can give you more flyers if you need them, but that's something that's out there. I have.
Kim, make sure you put that in our digest, please.
I have a check here, but we're sending in another service payment, so we have our semi-annual debt service payment going. And we did receive the request for the fourth payment of 4 for the Sewickley tap-in fee. So that will be on the bill list, on the agenda next week as its own line item, as this is it.
Why are you looking at me?
Sir, is there anything in writing on that?
There is now.
This will
Oh,
be-
George.
This will be Dan's first vote.
And I also have more plans here, if anybody wants to take smaller ones home, or you want to look
I
at
like
this
to, I like to
digest.
take a set home with me.
Okay, I'll get them.
Just need one.
It's a, no,
Do you know what colonizing the
Yeah.
cosmos is?
I don't,
No, it's a band maybe?
maybe.
Oh, probably.
Okay. Anything else on new business from anybody?
I move to adjourn.
Well, wait, we have to open it for citizen participation.
I move to
By
adjourn.
So we're
Second.
gonna
Motion,
put
motion and a
this-
second. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All
Normally
opposed,
just
say no.
adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Matt, you'll put this on your thing.
From my standpoint, it's
Uh,
very good for conversations tonight.
Yes.